Hey, all my Scorpio friends, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer, and I'm here today with your June 2024 monthly horoscope. These horoscopes are based on whole sign Western astrology. So when I'm talking about Scorpio, I'm referencing Scorpio rising. This is also applicable to Scorpio sun, Scorpio moon. And if you have 3 or more personal planets in the sign of Scorpio, this video is applicable to you as well. When I talk about a day and a time, I'm referencing the Pacific time zone. So please adjust for your location. All right, let's jump in because the month starts off really in a very kind of flowy way. We can see that South Node is making trines to this group of planets here in Gemini. Gemini is your 8th house. We've seen Jupiter just enter your 8th house. The 8th house is a house that represents other people's money. It represents death and rebirth. It represents sex. It represents inheritances and taxes. It represents the occult. It also represents a deep psychological imprint, that the kind of imprint that has power and control over us, often through fear. Now, Jupiter's going to go through this sign for the next year till June 9th, 2025. So it's going to be a lot of air, a lot of intellect, a lot of thinking, a lot of movement. Gemini is a very quick sign, a lot of movement. It rules our everyday activities, our speech, our thinking, our what we hear, the media we involve ourselves in, the communications, the emails. Jupiter also rules business and commerce, as well as foreign travel, foreign places. And while Jupiter is in detriment technically in Gemini, which is the house that's furthest from its home, Jupiter is a natural traveler, and it likes to explore foreign lands and to experience diversity and cultural traditions. So here it's experiencing the neighborhood, the community that affects our mind, that affects our everyday activities, that you know, the wheel that everybody has a routine in their life that they do. Most people, they either are, attending to children or they are children. So they get up in the morning, they have to go to school, they got to go to work, we got to get our errands run, da, 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 da. All of this is happening in the sign of Gemini. But at the same time, there's an opportunity here, I think, for my Scorpios to capitalize on the business and the commerce that is represented by Jupiter's expansion here. So I start to implement in my everyday life and look at my belief system, because that's also Jupiter, about the transformation. Am I able to broaden my database of people? Am I able to connect with people in a way that that expands my finances? The 8th house is a finance house. Venus is money. She rules our money and our possessions. She rules our self-worth. She rules our partnerships, both contractual in an intimate way and contractual in a professional way. And I can't help but notice that at the very first day of the month, we're seeing the sun is at 11 degrees, Venus at 10, Jupiter at 1. The trine to Pluto is at 1. That's a series of ones that are making me more aware that my thoughts are things. And then without that which I put focus on starts to come into my experience. So here, I think there's a real opportunity to be to see the diversity of my own mind. That's the way I want to put it. Now we have a little bit of what I think is a little bit of a challenge over here in Aries in your 6th house of work. Mars, the ruler of your 6th house, has been having a conversation with Chiron over the last week of May. And this is the wound that you carry, the wound of not being seen in the workplace potentially, or feeling like, you're doing so much and it's not in balance. The reason I put this is because Mars is individualistic. Mars goes out and makes things happen on its own. And in the work environment, sometimes we don't feel that sense of individual credit. you know? So we also see that the North Node and the Moon are coming into conjunction. As the day progresses, the Moon will move over all of these points, really bringing this into emotional awareness. And I want to say for my Scorpios, Mars is your co-ruler. So while Mars is still in a great power here, there could be a sense throughout all of this trining and this favorable energy, a ravenous energy to want to individualize, to see yourself, which could spawn this transformation in your 8th house. It could be the catalyst that sets you into motion to start to really broaden your database of clients or of people you interact with so that you can bring in more resources. There's that powerful trine between Jupiter and Pluto. 4th house is your Aquarian energy. And again, we see your Gemini energy is that 8th house of transformation. So to me, this is somehow rewriting your childhood experience or offering you a rebirth from it. Gemini rules the childhood experience. It rules early teaching, when kids are little in grammar school, maybe even early junior high. So there could be some sort of awareness that comes into your consciousness that lets you integrate the experience versus trying to release it as toxic waste. All right, let's go on to the 3rd, Scorpio. We will see Mercury is entering its domicile. And this is just, this energy of Mercury and Jupiter feels kind of funny because it feels so expansive and fast. And at the same time, I don't want to miss the details of things as I'm moving forward, and I don't want to get caught up in the details. So this is an interesting growing conjunction. And it could also be compelling. You may, like, if you're a parent, you may want to think about taking your children and putting them into a higher educational opportunity or something there. Or again, this could be you thinking about how you want to expand yourself in business, in how you represent yourself in business. The Jupiter energy rules publishing and branding and marketing. And right now, to me, that's very much all the content that's being created for the social platforms. So there could be a real expansion of social platform creation and potentially interaction. Now, we see that the Venus and the Sun are conjunct here. Technically, they say that anything that gets too close to the Sun is drowned out, right? And I think that this is a day where the square to Saturn and its growing potency. And I say that because this is your 5th house of creation of yourself, of birthing yourself into existence, essentially. And here, your self-worth you may not feel it's being seen, or you may be revisiting old stories that, you get to decide how much fear you have, how much trepidation. Are you willing to do the emotional hard work of putting your thoughts in alignment to the dreams and the transformation that you really want? Pluto is your ruling planet, and so is Mars. And, here we see they're in a growing square. And these two guys, when they're arguing, they take no prisoners, frankly. Mars can get really down and dirty and aggressive, and Pluto can just get psychologically mind meld you. Okay. So you want to be nice to yourself. You want to sort of look at this as, how can I be a peaceful warrior within my own mind, my own sense of self-worth, my own sense of an ability to create the things I want in my life? It's a big question, and it takes constant care and nurturing to really move that story forward in a tangible way, because it's the be, do, have, Scorpio. What do I believe? What is my attitude? What is my disposition before I take my action? And that might be a bit of why this square feels so tense. Mars may want to just take action, and Pluto's like, whoa, slow your roll and figure out, what are you really taking action in a good way? Fear-based action is not a way to go. And that could be stoked by Saturn square to the Sun and Venus. So we want to be a little cautious there. Let's go to the 6th. We're going to see a new moon in Gemini, which I think is a lovely new moon, kind of recalibrates this energy we were just talking about. This is at 5:37 a.m. And this new moon is conjunct Venus, planting the seeds for new things, new sense of self, using my skills, using my personal perceptions and my voice to express myself. There's a little bit of a challenging dynamic in this 1.5 to Pluto because you can't see how it's going to play out just yet. You can't see, the challenge is trusting that inner gut. And that conversation you were just having was accentuating the requirement to see what your vibrational alignment is. And we see here that Saturn, again, slowing its roll. It's going to get to 19 degrees, I think 12 minutes before it moves retrograde. So this is really kind of standing still in the sky, saying, what's the foundation that you're building? Because Saturn does not care if you're happy. Saturn is goal oriented. So pick a goal that you really love so that Saturn can reward you for the hard work that you do in believing in yourself, and then allowing that belief to be expanded to your network of people. Now, this would be the network of your community, the people that you interact with. It could even be siblings, addressing a sibling situation or a cousin situation, but definitely is going to somehow, it has the imprint of your childhood on it. Okay, let's go to the 9th, where Mars will move into your 7th house. Whoops. Here we go. Mars, Taurus is your 7th house. And this is really an interesting energy because Mars goes from feeling like the boss over here in your Aries energy in that 6th house to now having to address the interaction with other people. And to me, this isn't easy because this Taurus represents my personal history and my self-worth and how I've been feeling about myself. And we see that while Mars is going to enter this house of commingling, the house where, we want to be aligned, Taurus likes to take its time, likes to have a sense of predictability and a sense of history behind it so it knows where it's going. And Mars is like, I never know where I'm going. Mars is always on an adventure. Mars is the pioneer. So Mars has got to kind of slow down and kind of come to a compromise in this energy that is ruled by Venus. Now we see our little cluster of planets here, Venus, the Sun, and Mercury, with the Sun making a square to Saturn, as Saturn is literally just creeping into it. I can't explain how when Saturn is standing, it's like your room is dirty and your dad just walked into the room and doesn't even say a word. He just stares and looks around and you're like, oh, and you yourself start to judge yourself. You're like, I didn't do this and I didn't do that and da da da. That's what I think is happening. I also think this is a particularly emotional day because while the moon will travel, finish through, probably started up over here somewhere in the late degrees of Cancer, it'll end up in Leo. And in that transit, it's making an opposition to your 5th house. This with Leo is going to be your 11th house. And Leo's your 10th house. I'm sorry. Gemini, Cancer. Yeah, your 10th house. Sorry, I had to think for a second, didn't have that note down. But the point I'm trying to make, Scorpio, is that there is this square from the moon to Mars. Mars is making the square to Pluto, and Pluto is opposing the moon. This could be a real time of frustration. Focus could be like potentially on the lack of movement, the crazy, weird, going from passion and fire onto this earth and having to traverse the land slowly and methodically could create some tension. And then we see this stellium again, revisiting the Saturn's rules, regulations, and boundaries. So that's a little bit of a challenge. We're going to see from about the 12th through the 17th, this stellium continues It continues through the rest of your 8th house. And this is, I think, many ways revisiting the structures of your 6th house of work. I'm sorry, your 5th house of creativity. Your 5th, this is where I'm going with this. Scorpio, if you have any illusions about something, or you've been pretending you're not strong, or pretending you're not powerful, this square is going to bring tension, because you could find that your community, or the people that you start engaging to expand your business, now want to see you put something, my mom used to say, put your money where your mouth is. And so there's a period from here until, like, I think the 17th, where this square is just, each planet has touched it. And as the retrograde intensifies the energy, it becomes more apparent that the broad details, the broadness of Jupiter, the details of Mercury need to be integrated together. That's important. And that's something that you're going to walk through for the whole year. And as you do that, I think it broadens your ability to make money from other people. And then we're still experiencing the square between these two planets, Pluto and Mars. Again, this is a pacing, being aware of my value, being aware of how I'm taking my actions, even in the people I try to partner with. If you are trying to do a collaboration, even if it's a temporary collaboration, really being brave about looking at the person you're working with. And if you can actually, if somebody that comes to you in some way and you're in a need instead of a want or a get to, slow your roll, because Pluto will do something to it to recalibrate it, and you can avoid an upset. That's all I'm saying. All right. When we get to the 17th, we're going to see Venus and Mercury both move into Cancer, and they are going to make a aspect to Pluto, a blind side. It's called a quincunx. And this is an interesting energy because Pluto represents that deep psychological imprint where I feel like what's underneath the surface that could potentially be toxic to me, but I'm so used to it that it feels like it's a part of me. That would be how this plays to me. And this would be the communication of myself, my sense of self, my ability to nurture myself, to trust my maternal energy, meaning that I'm a receiver. Whether you're a man or a woman, we all have aspects of that within us. And now we're marrying our mind and our self-worth and our talents and trying to create a bigger sense of home for myself. This is where you're literally have this feeling of faith potentially the quincunx is a challenge, but it's a challenge that feels almost as if, I want to describe this better. I feel like that the Pluto trining Jupiter is supporting this. It's almost like you are aware there's something sitting under the surface and you suddenly decide you don't need to know what it is, that I just get to focus on taking care of myself, nurturing my dreams, nurturing the things that I want, checking in on my beliefs. Sometimes the human wants to always try to figure out why something happened. And sometimes it's just not, that's not the important part. The important part is the transformation of it. We also see at this particular time at noon that the moon is making an opposition to Mars. So don't go to lunch with anybody that you don't like, and don't get on the roadway with and don't let your anger, be mindful, because this feels a little emotional. You can see that this is making a loose T-square to Pluto. Again, Pluto is really, I swear, I think Pluto is the platform for all the other planets to operate on. It's that little dark planet. Maybe it's not a planet. It depends on your opinion. I think it's a planet way out there in the solar system that has to depend on its inner knowing more than any other planet. Some of these other planets get the sun to shine on them all the time. And while that can be annoying in and of itself, here, this is an opportunity to illuminate where my pissed offness and my anger is just tripping me up. And am I truly going back to a story I don't need to go to? The moon's in Scorpio. That's your sign. And it's having a T-square with both of your ruling planets. So it's pretty gnarly. Okay. can be good, but it could be a little tense. Let's go to the 21st, where we're going to see the sun will have moved into Cancer, and we're going to experience our first of 2 full moons in Capricorn. And that is at 6:07 p.m. on the 21st. This is a pretty significant full moon, because the new moon in Gemini planted the seeds with Venus for your self-confidence, for your skills, for your talents, for the dream of luxury and enjoyment and comfort in your life. And now we see that the moon and the sun in its brightest phase are making a T-square to Neptune. Neptune rules creativity. It's a very polarizing house. I mean, it rules a dreamy, fantasy, beautiful picture, and then it rules escaping from the real dark horrors of this human experience. The Pisces is where we put people away that are troublesome: mental hospitals, foster care, boys, detention camps, things like, that are repressive and make us feel invisible and unseen. And so here, this full moon could very well illuminate where you have felt unseen, and yet at the same time, are you participating in feeling unseen? Are you continuing in behaviors or thoughts or actions that don't support you to be seen? We started this month with a series of ones in the planets. The sun was at 11 degrees, the Venus was at 10, Jupiter and Pluto both at 1 degree. Here we've got the moon at 1 degree of Capricorn, creating new emotional structures with a 1 degree sun, and we come down to 29 degrees, which reduces down to an 11. The 11 is that number of master of thought. And to be a master of thought here in the physical is to understand the ebb and the flow. That there's, that's when we're having a dip or a divine disruption, it has a purpose. And that is to illuminate our thought process. And this T-square is actually, while the illusions and the fantasies may be illuminated, like what this is story you've been telling yourself, Pluto's supporting the transformation of it. Pluto and Neptune are going to travel together. They're both going to retrograde this year, and then we can see Pluto already is. And then in 2025, Neptune's going to move into Aries, again, your 6th house, giving you an opportunity to really create your dream job or your dream situation, and even really course correct your health, but removing some of the illusions about, whatever your daily habits are. So here, the 1, 1, 1, 1, all is still playing. We even see that while this 29 reduces down to the master number 11, there's Pluto at 1 degree. So everything has to do with thoughts. And that's even more accentuated by Jupiter's transit through Gemini. That's where the real transformation comes in for you. All right, let's go now to 29th. And at about 6 o'clock, I think, maybe a little earlier, Saturn goes retrograde. And this is really, I think, this is a pretty powerful retrograde, because it's going to revisit some themes from when Saturn first entered, or I should say, when Saturn got into those middle degrees. There's going to be a theme that's revisited. It's technically in shadow before it goes retrograde, so the planet's slowing down. The planet is also going to take a while to ramp back up and won't get back into its full throttle of movement until early 2025. So there's going to be Saturn continuing to call forth for you a restructuring of what you want for yourself. The 5th house rules entertainment and enjoyment and playtime and laughing and giggling and being silly, and as well as performing and acting and self-expression. The flip side of it is that it requires you to come from your heart and to have the courage to do that, and that's what Saturn's going to call forth from you. And, the thing about it is that I really truly do believe that Scorpio is the most intuitive sign. So as you put structure into your intuitive body, you start to, I always suggest taking during the shower time to use that as meditation time, as intention setting time. It's two birds, one stone. The water's super helpful. Saturn in Pisces, structure inside of the water, in your house of fun and romance. I also think that as Saturn retrogrades, this little ditty over here with the moon going through Aries for most of the day is really accentuating anywhere that, I feel not seen. I really want to be seen. There's that North Node, then it came up, and here it is conjunct Chiron. So there is an emotional opportunity here to have an awareness that certain wounds are the very gift themselves, because they are the catalyst that moved you. And this might very well have a lot to do with your work environment or how you take care of your health. If you're too hot, being ruled by Pluto and Mars could makes people hot. It can. The unconscious can be quite hot. So that's really it for my Scorpios for June 2024. Again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an intuitive astrologer. If you'd like to book a reading with me, I am available. My information is below in the description, and I'll be back with your July monthly. Have a great June, everybody. Sending light and love.